Please go ahead.
Okay. I want to say welcome once again. Shortly, we'll be looking at the issue of performance management, generally for our company. My emphasis, first of all, is that we must differentiate performance management, as a broad system, as different from the performance management instrument called performance appraisal. Okay, what we are looking at strictly today is performance appraisal, the instrument, to critique it and to make it better. However, okay, we must make reference also to the fact that performance management as a system must also be, uh, good attention must be paid to that. And how do I mean? It goes beyond just the quarterly or the half yearly or the end of the year thing. It has to do with putting in place things like supervisory sessions, the feedback system, how people cascade on a daily basis. Okay, so that performance, appraisal doesn't just it's not the all in all. People are already on a daily basis being appraised, and so performance appraisal at the end of the day, it doesn't come like a witch hunting or a voodoo kind of thing to them. So that's the performance management system. We will look at all the other things later, but let's look at this appraisal appraisal instrument first of all. I must emphasize something, one or two things about every performance management instrument. Someone's mic is on. Sorry. Someone's mic is on.
She has muted herself now.
Okay. All right, good. So I must emphasize something about, every performance management instrument. The first thing is that it must give very clear parameters to both the appraiser and the appraisee, with regards to, when a measure or a variable is met or not met, with regards to, what acceptable performance is all about. So when we leave it vague, okay, it might be subject to interpretation that is different by both the appraiser and the appraisee. And this happens in most cases where performance description is not broken into measures and where measures are not translated into KPIs. In some cases, people mistake measures for KPIs. These are totally different. And I saw that, run across most of what we have on our present appraisal instruments. And I will show you an example of that. The second other thing you must understand about performance management instrument, is therefore what, it ties into what I've said earlier on. It must leave nothing in doubt as to allowing private interpretation with regards to what is acceptable or unacceptable performance. Nothing must be left in doubt. So these two tie in, into one another. Clear parameters, where metrics are well defined, measures are well defined, and the KPIs are well defined. And the second ties into that, so that both the appraiser and appraisee will be on the same page of the same in-book, understanding when that the acceptable performance on that variable has been met or it has not been met. So these two things are very, very important. Now, I will share my screen for you to see example of what I'm saying. I will share the screen for you to see example of what I'm saying. All right. Am I because I can gladly use yours as an example, because we are talking about we are all together in this. Okay. Now look at this. Look at this. Job function, well explained. Key performance indicator. Most of what we have here as key performance indicators are just
the screen is just white.
The screen is not clear. You can't see it.
Just white.
It's just white.
Something before, but now it's just white.
Okay, please let me bring it up again. Sorry.
Yes.
Please let me bring it up again so that you can, because it's important you see it clearly. It's very, very important you see it clearly. I'm coming. Please, I want to make the screen better. Please, I want you to confirm if you can see it better now. Please confirm if you can see the screen better now.
Confirmed.
Confirmed. Okay.
I can see it now.
Okay, thank you. Let me increase this. If I can increase this. Is it much more better?
Better for my eyes.
Much more better. Well, it's no problem.
Much better.
All right, that's good. That's good. So I said you must differentiate certain things. Okay, you must differentiate measures from metrics and metrics from KPIs. What we have here, I've not differentiated them well. And so, for instance, on recruitment, we said the KPI is adherence to recruitment timeline, 1 month, and approved budget. So this is left for the interpretation of the manager supervising this candidate to determine whether that's been met, without something guiding him, which will be of the same interpretation by the appraisee and the appraiser. Because the appraisee, him or herself, should have been able to appraise herself, even in self-appraiser, using that same measure. And that's what I want to explain. What we have here are measures. Measures are variables for consideration in making decision. Okay, for instance, it could be measures of time, quality, quantity, degree, length. This is a good measure. Then it shows us also a good metrics. What are metrics? Metrics are calculations or measures that gives input for analytical decision making. For instance, in media, we will say cost per click. That's a measure. Wale, you understand that? We say GRP, gross rating point. That's a measure. IMAI, you will say in HR, time to hire. That's a measure. Sales per region, that's a measure. Overtime hours in HR, that's a measure. Delivery time for our operation people, that's a measure. So when you put measures here, it doesn't help me to know exactly to what degree you want to put a measure on, whether acceptable or not acceptable. And that is where we go on to KPIs. But before we go on to KPIs, I would say there are 3 kinds of measures or metrics, we call them. There are 3 kinds of metrics. I've gone from measures, which is variables for consideration in making a decision, which is time, quality, quantity, degree, length, etc. I've gone from that to metrics. Metrics are now the calculations you do on the measures that give input for analytical decision making. All right, but that to an extent will look as if it is enough, but it's not enough until you bring metrics into to turn metrics into KPIs. And how do you turn them into KPIs? You turn them into KPIs by giving them specific measurable value from which you can determine whether I have been effective or I have been efficient. Again, KPIs are specific measurable values from which effectiveness or efficiency can be measured. So you are taking metrics now. You are now putting specific values to them. In most of this, for instance, when you say percentage reduction in admin cost, what percentage? It has not been agreed. So is it 1%? Is it 5%? When you put exact measures to them, when you put exact measures to metrics, then it becomes KPIs. There are 3 kinds of metrics. It can be technical, technological metrics, it can be process metrics, it can be service metrics. Technological metrics has to do with maybe getting your system, your machines doing it faster. If that's to your job. Process has to do with the way you do things. To get whether things you assess as variables, even to measure whether you are doing it well or not. Then service has to do with relationship with customers or clients. So KPI is where we are going to, and I will show you an example of specific measurable values using this particular appraisal to turn these metrics into measures. Because at best, what we have on this appraisal is, at best is a metric. Okay, some are better than just a measure. Some have been put into metrics. However, these metrics have to be turned into KPIs. Are we together? Hello,
Yes.
Mighty? Okay,
Yes,
good.
I hear.
Yes. All right, good. All right, good. So that's the first thing, differentiating between performance management and performance appraisal, then going down to the various critical variables you must consider in doing performance management, which has to do with measures, metrics, and KPIs. And then differentiating between these three. Now, KPIs are the things you must put on your performance appraisal form. Let us now look at, for instance, these, there are two kinds of KPIs which you have done well here. We have the technical KPIs, which has to do with really your job, it has to do with things that you need, to perform that function well. Those are what you call the core functional areas or the technical, KPIs. Okay, so that's what you have above here. Good. Then you have the behavioral. Both are needed to perform the job well. You've classified them well. However, let us look at the first technical KPI you have here: recruitment. What was written here as a KPI is adherence to recruitment timeline, 1 month. Well, this is near to KPI when you look at recruitment, that's cost time. The measure here, when you want to turn the measure into metrics, it will be time to fill. That's what we call it. Time to fill. That is what the KPI is called. So time to fill is 1 month. That is well set. But what of the approved budget? Adherence to approved budget. We don't know exactly, unless if what you are saying is that it must be 100% adherence to budget. But does that show any improvement if all I'm doing is just I'm adhering to budget? How will I know if I have met expectation, if I have not met expectation? Is it by 100% or by me making even savings on the recruitment budget? So I would have said maybe a savings on recruitment budget, by maybe 5% might be a better KPI. Just saying. So you must look at that example. Let me pick another good example I have here. Maybe, for instance, where you chose welfare, adherence to approved budget. This is just vague. KPIs are not activity-based, they are outcome-based, and that's what I must emphasize. How do you know whether the person has met the KPI? It's not only because they have specific numbers that will show you whether you have met or not, but they are outcome-based, not activity-based, not output-based. What you have done here is an output-based. It must be outcome-based. How does it affect the operation of our organization? So for instance here, let me turn this welfare, staff engagement, and HR initiative into a KPI. An example may be, a 24 or 48 hours turnaround time. Maybe for any, don't forget, I've told you, metrics can be either process, service, or technology. Now, if you want to look at it in terms of service or process, for instance, they sent you a staff maybe leave form or whatever is the staff processing. Are we saying if the acceptable time will be 24 hours turnaround time? Okay, so if I meet 24 hours turnaround time, that's when I get 100% as you put in target. That means if I meet 24 hour turnaround time, I have met expectation. But if I did it below 24 hours, then I have exceeded expectation. In both cases, it is 100% we are looking at. However, the specificity of the KPI is the timing or the degree or whatever, it's something very measurable that it's known to both your MD and yourself. So for instance there, the turnaround time, 24 hours or 48 hours, whatever is agreed between you and your supervisor will be that which is your KPI, not just adherence to budget. because this is an output, not an outcome. I want to see an outcome. The outcome is how it affects business, and it is based on the turnaround time. Another example of how you can measure welfare and staff engagement in an HR initiatives, because you don't measure it based on just what, we want something tangible also. And this is where we will have to introduce something called your employee satisfaction survey. Just like we have client satisfaction survey for salespeople who are meeting, external clients. You have internal clients. On your employee satisfaction survey, which you will have to institute and have also quarterly, because it is a vital input into your appraisal as an HR. Using HR appraisal now as an example of what you will have to redo even all over. Okay, now having gone through it, I think I love that of sales. Sales is much more pointed, but we'll look at it also. Okay, now still under the staff engagement, welfare, and HR initiative, one other outcome-based KPI will be, the input that you receive from the employee satisfaction survey, because you are serving them, you are a service provider to them, so they must give you feedback, untainted feedback about how you are doing. This is very important. So you can put there, not less than 70%. Don't forget, our exceed performance is 70%. Okay, so not less than 70% rating on employee satisfaction survey. That will be something I can go home with and rest. And once I hit this, I know I have exceeded even performance, and also my boss will know, because it is not just my boss saying, I think you are good in welfare. I think no. This performance is not measured from the perspective of the giver, but from the perspective of the recipients. The recipient is not just your MD alone or your supervisor. If it has to do with welfare, if it has to do with engagement, if it has to do with initiatives. Imayi, I hope I'm connecting with you.
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay, so you see those two KPIs can go for your staff engagement, welfare, and HR initiatives. The first KPI is, I don't know what we agree with the MD. Is it 24 hours or 48 hours turnaround time? Because it has to be agreeable. It has to be a smart KPI. That is, it's not only specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Okay, so the achievability of it, is 24 hours, an unachievable thing for any staff welfare, because we must look at the consequence of it. If it's lagging also, if for instance, welfare are disciplinary matters, when it, can we always crush every disciplinary matters within 24 hours, or is it 48 hours? You have to look at this. You want to process a leave form, you have your SAGE now. Okay, on the SAGE, can you process it within 24 hours? So look at an acceptable time and set it, as that is the minimum acceptable. So if turnaround time there is 24 hours, put 24 hours. Turnaround time is 48 hours, put 48 hours. So on each project, you will take each welfare issue you are handling like a project, and you will now be able to measure. I handled this. Did I finish in 28 hours, or I finished in 60 hours? You'll be able to rate yourself already whether it's acceptable or unacceptable or exceeded that you have on those each of the projects. That's how it's done. Okay, and don't forget, the instrument of your employee satisfaction survey is incontestable. It is very pragmatic and very objective. So each staff member gives a feedback, including the MD, and we collect this and we see exactly whether you have exceeded or whether the increment of this office that we are looking at have exceeded 70%, which is exceed, or below 70, which is just met, or below 50, which is unacceptable. Look again at training. What is written? The description is well written, but what is written here as a key performance indicator is weak, very weak. Don't forget, I've told you, key performance indicator always measures outcome, not just output. Outcome. Outcome is something that can move and can cause changes in the business and practically measurable. That is what will make people in future not to say that HR is all about subjectivity and all that. You must have practically measured outcome. Look at training, for instance. I can, some people may put it as little as improved employee competence and impact on overall performance by not less than 5%, on the year. This is how HR is tied to the bottom line. This is how HR will also be looking at the bottom line, because you see, if the bottom line does not improve by minimum of that 5%, traceable to your training, that means HR has not done its job. I know that there are several other factors that can impede even the bottom line, but this is HR's, at least that 5% or so that is agreed, is HR's contribution to it. And we have so done. Some other very little KPIs may be that, look, every staff, attends 2 trainings per quarter, 1 training per quarter. So we can measure it clearly, not just, omnibus as if, adherence to training plan. It must be specific. Don't forget the specificity, the quality of smartness in setting goals also applies to certain KPIs. In admin cost, for instance, what you gave here was a good metric, percentage of reduction. That is a good metric. But when you turn it to KPI, you must tell me what percentage. Is it 5? Is it 10% on admin cost year on year? And this is what links also to ingenuity and innovation in the behavioral. Because it may be that through innovation, through ingenuity, that's how you are able to reduce this cost. So it must be specific. Look at your onboarding, for instance. You said average percentage cost. It is also a good metric, but not a good KPI. For instance, I can say average of 70% post-induction assessment. So because if you know that your student, in quotes, or your new hire will be assessed by their performance at the end of the day, you will do everything to ensure that everyone that to handle them, even if you are not the one handling them, must give them all they must give them, so that they will be able to have above acceptable performance at the end of their onboarding. So HR will therefore know that, look, I am also being assessed. So I will say here, average of 70% post-induction assessment. You have made it so specific, not just average percentage. This is a metric, not a KPI. So, as I said, I will use that of HR for you to understand how to apply it to other disciplines. Look at record keeping and filing. Reduction in the number of, so how do I know? To what degree? Don't forget, I've told you that KPI makes me to ascertain how effective and how efficient. This has not made me to know it. It must have a specificity with regards to, is it degree, quality, quantity, and things like that. For instance, record keeping, I can use ratio. Maybe for now, you must have, you must agree with your supervisor. For instance, if you want to look at ratio of your documents that are digitalized and ratio of documents that are in paper form, if it is agreed that for now, 80% are in paper form, only 20% is digitalized. You can agree, for instance, that record keeping must move, from 80 to 20% paper and digitalized to 60 to 40% by first quarter, 50 to 50% by second quarter, and maybe 40 to 60, that is 40 paper form and 60% at the last quarter, all respectively. So we'll be able to know exactly what you're doing. That's an example for maybe, keeping paper and, documentation and all that. Okay. There can also be benchmark for retrievals. We are looking for files. Maybe it takes you 1 hour to, or 30 minutes, or, because we are using more paper form now to retrieve things and get back to the MD when it needs it. Maybe 20 minutes, that's what it takes you now. That's the baseline. We can reset that, I want a 40% reduction from the 20% baseline of retrieving documents. So you have to set clear baselines. Look at performance management, adherence to process and all that. Yeah, that's vague, good, but be specific. What is the process? What's the timeline? Do we do it every quarter? And when must, for instance, what will be the cutoff time by which we know that, look, if HR has not brought out their, fed the appraiser into the system by now, he or she has unmet expectation. Maybe you may say that, administer latest by first week in the appraisal quarter, and result must be published by latest by last week. So if the result, if for instance, here we're using clear timelines. If for instance, you administer by second week, that is unmet already. Then if you publish the results, however, by the third week instead of fourth week, that is surpassed. So this will be so clear. Do you understand it? This will be so clear. Let's look at weekly meetings. Weekly meetings, how does it affect our operation? Maybe we are having meetings that is eating too much into our system. Maybe we have too many meetings. Or maybe the outcome of the meetings are not being made use of, so much that we have a lot of matters arising time and time again. This is where you have to set clear KPIs, because KPIs are meant to be set to address particular issues that will impact upon effectiveness and efficiency of business, and will in turn impact the bottom line. That's what KPIs are about. So if these are the problems, okay, we will now look at, for instance, how I will set KPI to address the problem. One of it may be if we have too many physical meetings that is consuming most of our time, and we know that maybe online meetings, use less time. I may set the KPI of maybe 80% to 20%, 80 to 20 ratio of virtual to physical meeting. But you must also understand that your KPI must solve a problem. If that's not a problem, don't set it as a KPI. All right. If that's not the problem, don't set it as a KPI, please. All right. But if, for instance, also, we have a lot of matters arising because a lot of actions are not being taken. So you, as the HR, who is also the de facto secretary of such meetings, must set a KPI like 90% action implementation before every subsequent meeting. That means, HR must understand that it will be on the neck of everyone to action even before the next meeting, because he or she knows that he or she will be assessed based on actionable points. So if you have done all, okay, and the actionable points are still brought back to matters arising, it will now be clear whether it is due to improper follow-up or due to other reasons. Then we can discuss, because appraisal meetings is also a discussion session. Let's look at your maintenance, for instance. Your maintenance. That's the last technical variable, that you have here. Now, the thing you put here as KPI is just at best, just a measure, not even a metric. So it is far from being a KPI. So what do we want to really assess and measure under preventive maintenance and facilities management to show whether you are effective or efficient. Don't forget, it's always outcome based, not just output based. That's KPI. So let's see examples like you have, I know you always have your maintenance schedule. Okay, so maybe 100% adherence to maintenance schedule. 0% downtime. Those are, those are measurable things. So once you have one downtime, in that quarter, I don't have met expectation. So this will help you to quickly cascade to your supervisor things that may be hindrances. Because you see, if you have cascaded it and all that, you will also have such documents with you during your appraisal discussion to discuss that, Oga, why I add an unmet expectation here is institutional, organizationally caused, not because I didn't cascade or do it. So you will not be scored against that. That's why these things are very, very important. So these are examples for you here. Let me show you one or two other examples under the behavioral parameters for performance management. You put under the behavioral key behaviors like customer focused, integrity, innovation, problem solving skills, leadership, ownership, appearance, image, self-development, punctuality, teamwork. Perfect. Because this all ties into our value system and how we want to do our business, okay, and also things that will help us in under the technical parameters to deliver. It's good. However, the description is just all you gave. You didn't give a KPI. This description should be under each of the behaviors. Then, where you wrote description, you put KPI and now put KPI strictly. I want to know what you want to measure. Again, I said what you put here under description that is constantly delivers values to clients and willing to do, put it under key behavior of what we expect. Then put your KPI, where the title of description is, and now put what the KPI should be. What should be KPI in customer focus for an HR? Your customers are HR and admin. Your customers are strictly internal. Okay, and don't forget I said one critical input instrument you will use to assess yourself vis-a-vis even service, process, technology to your customers will be your customer satisfaction survey, or what you call your for the internal person, your M. If I was talking to a salesperson, I would say customer satisfaction survey or client satisfaction survey. But you as an HR, it will be your employee satisfaction survey. So I will put there for the KPI above 70% in the quarterly employee satisfaction survey. If it's for the salesperson, I will put above 70% in the quarterly customer satisfaction survey. So that means, the salesperson or the HR person will run, after the client to fill this form and to send it back to us because it's an input into their performance. So for the HR person, both your forward dependency and your backward dependencies, everyone you are touching their lives vis-a-vis your service, your process, and your technology will have to fill this form. And we aggregate the average and we'll see whether you have met, you have superseded, or you have performed below. Look at integrity. Don't forget, I've said everything on this, your column for description, you have to put it under each of the key behaviors. Okay, so the key performance indicator for integrity is not what you said there. We don't know when you have achieved it or not. Maybe you can just put 0 infraction, 0 misconduct traceable to trust issues. So it's 0. So if there is 1 traceable to trust issues, traceable to maybe fraud or whatever, it's a no-no for us because of the values that our organization stands for. So zero infraction or zero incidents related to trust issues, related to fraud, related to to integrity, things that has to do with integrity. So that's an example of how it can be stated. If you think it can be better stated, please think about it, but don't forget it must be quantifiable. So I know that if I have done one already under that, I cannot expect it, where you put 100% target, yes, that's what it means. But what we are measuring to achieve that 100% target must be clear. So, and don't forget, I will get to my distribution table below. All right, my own distribution table in most cases is very, very simple. I don't give you, when I tell you that you have met, that's 1. You have not met, that's 0. And if you have surpassed it, that's maybe 3 or 5. So I make it much more aspirational to surpass. So, when you begin to give 0 to when you begin to give a range of numbers and all that, people in most cases just push the people they are present in the middle. There will be error of central tendency. I will get to that when we get to your the instrument for your rating grid there. So look at innovation. Okay, what kind of things? Okay, for instance, you can look at how innovation affects the operation of the organization. How innovation helps us to save costs. So the measure will be percentage of cost saving traceable to HR innovation. So the KPI will be, don't forget I said it is linked. Okay, that's what I told you earlier on when I was talking about admin cost. It is linked to admin cost. So the same percentage you put in admin cost is what you put there in innovation, because it's innovation, not for itself, but as it affects cost. Because for you, as a support service giver, you may not be able to directly influence the revenue, but you will be able to directly influence the cost. So everyone, if you are using balanced scorecard, everyone has a financial metrics, financial responsibility. Yours is to save costs. So you must put there, if we have put 5% reduction year on year in admin cost there, so you put here 5% reduction, okay, in admin cost traceable to innovation. All right? Are you with me? Hello, Imai? I hope you get it.
I'm with you, sir.
Okay, great. Let's look at problem solving, for instance. Problem solving. What are we saying about problem solving? Helping people to get things done faster, removing bottlenecks in the system. That's what problem solving is about. So how do we measure this? We are looking at reduction in project timing and improved quality, as well as their positive cost implications. These are all about problem, timing. So you should be able to put maybe a percentage, a degree of impact, or a ratio, whatever. Don't forget I've said, specific measures that KPI is all about. So problem solving, for instance, you may put something like still how your innovation or your interventions help to reduce overall cost by 5%, because your problem solving skill is still linked up to your to the technical result of admin costs. So you, just like innovation links up to it, you link it up. So your ingenious intervention through your problem solving skills, leading to reduction of 5% in admin cost, leading to, maybe the timing, project execution timing, leading to an improvement by maybe 5%, maybe, for instance, when the operations people, if it takes them maybe so numbers of days to deploy a particular hoarding to this place and all that, maybe 2 days. And one of the things you do is you provide a vehicle or whatever. I don't know what aspect you do there. If you have a part you're playing there, you may reduce that 2 days to 1.5 days as a target. And that means you are looking at about a 25% reduction in time to deploy of that hoarding. So that's one specific example of problem solving, intervention due to HR that has affected the business. So I'm just giving that as an example, but think about something specific. Okay, you can tie to admin costs, as I've said, how your problem solving skills have resulted in particular percentage. So agree about this percentage reduction with your sorry, I will have to mute my. There is okay. All right. Okay. Now, so you must agree the percentage reduction that your problem solving skills bring to the party. That's how you, as a person, will be able to speak. Okay. Just like the salesperson speaks that I brought this to the table, you'll be able to say, I brought this to the table. Okay. In terms of financial metrics also. Because traceable to what I did, was this discussion, reduction, was this improvement. Okay, let's look at leadership. For me, one other instrument you will have to put in place to help people measure your leadership and ownership is what we call a 360-degree survey. Leadership, your leadership skills, competence as. Don't forget, we are looking at outcome. What impact does your supervisor think your leadership influence have made? He will rate you and send. What of your peers? They will, who are heading other department, they will rate you and send. Then what of other people like the junior staff below you? They will rate you and send. That's your 360-degree. In terms of leadership. But to make this less cumbersome, it can be just something I don't know if the SAGE system has such an easy platform you can use. If it doesn't, you can just use maybe SurveyMonkey or even your Google form to just develop just a short, maybe 5 points leadership rating, leadership factor thing, and so they rate you, and it can be done easily and very fast. It doesn't need to be paper, and once it's done, it's collated immediately and all that. Okay, so here I will say for everyone, for leadership and ownership, I will say maybe you should have what we call a 360-degree survey, which will feed into this. All right. So when we say, the description of lead by example, take ownership, and those will be the points you will ask them to rate you. Is it good? Is it? And don't forget, I just like using those 3 things. Did not meet, unmet, met, exceeded. For me, I just like those simple 3 things. Okay, and as I've said, once I get to your key, your performance, grading key down there. For me, the way I like it is that if it's unmet, it's 0. It's not a matter of okay, unmet, okay, see one. If it's met, if you agree there is 1 or 2, fine. If it's met, maybe 2. Then exceed, I can give it as much as 5. And that's how I compute it. I don't like all these things of 10%, 20%. I like it clear, so that you know what you're running towards. You're running towards minimum of meeting it. Okay. And on the basis of this is also what I will cascade into my reward system, into my compensation system, even that will affect my annual review for them. So people know clearly where they stand. All right. So let me pick this last one on the behavioral, which is self-development. For self-development, what do I want to know? Okay, it's not the last, but the last I will take here, so I can quickly go on. What do you want to measure in self-development? It's beyond just the organizational training. So it is how the person constantly seeks to develop and improve his skills, just like you have rightly written. So that's the description. But you must have a way of measuring the outcome. How do you do that? It can be that, look, each person, you can set it that, each person, please, this is just an example, each person, if this is for you, must read 2 professional books per quarter and summarize and share with the entire agency in not more than 2 slides, maybe something like that. It's clear. So everyone knows that I must read for my self-development in my area of discipline, or you will have set it, is it area of function and all that. Okay. So this also speaks to thought leadership, particularly for every every head of department, whether finance, whether operations, whether sales, whether HR and admin. It speaks to thought leadership, okay, within the organization. And part of this thought leadership, we can also export it to the industry. Okay, because some of these inputs can even form our own internal journal. So that's how it links. So when we're talking about self-development here, I said we be specific. For instance, is it that the person must there are a lot of free online courses that has to do with your discipline now. So, and please, HR will be tracking it time and time again. Whatever they say they've read, they send the summary in 2 slides or so to you, and all that, you track it. So it is something you can call up later. Okay, you attach it. There are attachments even possible even to Sage, I believe, on the appraisal, based attachment of proofs that they have done this. Okay, so but beyond they doing the summary, because I want to encourage even collegiate learning, and we want to encourage our organization to become a learning organization. So we will encourage that these learnings are shared, maybe at the village meeting once a month or once in 2 months, depending on what's our culture and what we want to do. So number one, they document what they have done, okay, as a proof, okay, that they have read those 2 minimum books or per quarter, whatever. They document it, they send it to HR, and there is an avenue to share maybe what they have learned in 5 minutes. So they know what never gets checked, never gets done. It is what you inspect that you will expect that people will repeat. It is what you inspect that you must expect that people will repeat. There's a law of reinforcement. What you reinforce get repeated. So as you inspect it, because via they sending you proof that they've read it through that maximum 2 slides, just bullet points, not verbose. Okay, then they're presenting it at the organizational village meeting. It serves as growing our intellectual learning capacity as an organization. Okay, and also a proof that person has done it. So these are some of the things you can do. So at least for all leaders, I will say there must be at least one thought leadership business related contribution shared across the agency at least once in a quarter or at least once per month. You must set that. It shows that they are looking out, reading journals, business journals, related advertising, and as they have this, they share. We want to encourage sharing culture amongst us. So that is one of the proof that satisfy the KPI here. So as I've said, I'm just using that of HR as an example, basically. So under your summary here, the summary, yes, is okay here, section D. But this is the key I'm saying. The score of over 90% significantly exceeds, expectation, good. 80 to 90 exceed expectation, good. But what we normally say is 81 to 90. So you will not, the boundary line will be clear. Above 90 for significantly exceed expectation, that's good. But 90 to 81 exceed expectation. Then, sorry, not 90 to 81. No, 90 to 71, that is exceeds expectation. Then 70 to 51 meets expectation. Then 50 and below. We don't want such people. We said that no, does not meet expectation. Now, for those who significantly exceeds expectation, now the grade of the rate, okay, may be as much as 7. That is the weight. For those who exceed expectation, may be 5. Those who meet expectation, maybe 2 or 3, depending on you and your MD, what you agree. While for me, anyone that does not meet expectation is 0. So that's how you do the rating, and that's how it impacts on, here where you put peer appraisal, the person appraising also, maybe supervisor appraisal, apart from peer appraisal. That's the column. Supervisor appraisal, that's what will determine what I will put there. Whether it is a 5, is a 7, is a 3 or 2, or is a 0. Then I'm summing, so that means the maximum rating for any of these parameters is 7. That is where we put significantly exceeds expectations. And it's all of that I will sum up and I will turn into percentage that will come here. Am I?
So I can hear you.
Up to this point, do you have any question?
No, you actually answered.
Okay, I answered the anticipated question.
Yes.
Okay. I said something about this sales executive. I just want to pick 1 or 2 things and show you here. For instance, key performance indicator here, conversion rate of leads to client, well stated metric, but you must, don't forget, I said you must put what? Either a percentage, a number, a ratio, and to turn it into a KPI. So what is the conversion rate? If the conversion rate is that he has maybe a sales funnel, because don't forget, every time she goes out to say I'm prospecting, she comes back and discuss with our boss that said, look, I prospected 10. Okay, we will look at that 10 you prospected in that month vis-a-vis the ones you converted. That's what this means. So if she converted, if what is acceptable to you is that maybe out of 10, just convert 4. So you can put there 4 out of 10. So if she hits 4 out of 10, she has achieved a 100% target. Because realistically speaking, it is impossible to convert 100% of every prospected client. But if we are a high performance organization, we may say out of every 10 you prospect per month, you must convert 70. So we are saying 70% conversion rate is what gives you 100% target. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Good. So increased number of clients. This is also vague. There must be a percentage to show the increase. All right. Now, where you have put the percentages under your target, that's why I said this looks a little bit closer. Now, at least 10 every month. Okay. So if it's at least 10 every month, that's your target. So what would be your key performance? So you are saying 10% month on month enlargement of your clientele base. That's what you are saying. If it's 10% every month, we are starting from zero ground, assuming that none is existing. So that's 10% month on month increase in clientele base. Please look at that, again and reset it. Increased sales revenue. The target here you wrote is at least 2 every month. Great. You are specific here also, but turn it also into its counterpart key performance indicator. Increased sales revenue, at least 2 every month. That can be better put because 2 is not a good measure for sales revenue. You rather measure sales revenue in specific naira or dollar term or specific percentage or ratio. So when you say 2 every month, it's vague. It's not good enough. So increase sales revenue, month on month. Is it 10%? Is it 5%? Is it 1%? Please let it be clear. Okay. And then your target will be that it will be 100% of that KPI. It must be 100% of that KPI for every of your target. We are not. So when you eat 100% of it, you have met it. But when you do much more than, for instance, if we put here, increase sales revenue by 2% month on month, and he add, he increased it by 3%. That means he has achieved the target of 100, but much more than 100. So he has exceeded performance. So for him, the rating scale that I put there, if I put 7 for exceed, he has 7 already. Now look at this performance in a job area where you put the KPI as customer satisfaction rate, or that's I said earlier on when I was dealing with HR that you will need to develop a customer satisfaction survey instrument. I don't know whether we have that already. If you don't have, develop it. But what we are saying here, okay, is that it must have a minimum percentage in terms of the perception of satisfaction received by clients or customers from this sales executive. So it will be something that we will send to them and make them to understand that, please, we need this, on a quarterly basis to help us improve our service to them. So they see that whatever we are doing, okay, we're not loading them with much more work, but something to improve their own business so that they will be willing to do. So, but the KPI here is not specific. For me, I would say, since our exceed or expectation is 70, it's 71 now. So I can just say 75% customer satisfaction, minimum 75% customer satisfaction response rating, minimum 75% or 71%, which pushes them into that exceed, because we want to exceed and delight customer time and time again. That's what we want to do. So we say our customer service rating must not be below that 70%. It's not just once we are in the area of we just I like their service. We have not done well. So not until we enter into that 71% up. That's why I said maybe about 5% customer satisfaction rating. So this sales executive therefore knows that my account management skills must be improved. If I give that 75% customer service rating, he knows that in the self-development down there, what he or she must be focusing on our books, our courses to help him or her improve on this. So that's how it ties in. So I will stop here. I just thought I should use this tool to explain to you, how we really put together a good performance management instrument. I will say that, look, what you've done, it's good, but a lot can be improved upon it to make it much more specific, particularly with regards to key performance indicator. So I need your feedback. MD,
Okay, so thank you.
over to you too.
Okay, Rev, thank you so much. In fact,
Rev, thank you so much.
a lot of the things
In
you
fact,
said, yeah.
I can't hear you.
a lot of the things you said,
Oh, your connectivity is poor, sir.
The one has been thinking about, but I don't know how to verbalize it.
It is the professional that will give you the right words.
The whole thing